Welcome everybody. As you know, my name is Laura. I'm the founder of John's Journey Walk Foundation. We do an annual walk every year in the summer, in July. And it's to honor and remember people that have had issues with mental health, addiction, and recovery issues. This is the interview series. This is our second interview. We're hoping to do some more, but this is a special one. This is about the Nina Project. And I have today with me Gayle. She's one of the co-founders of the Nina Project, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and just discuss how it originated and kind of what the process was, and why it's here and what they're doing right now, and the success of it. So a lot of people will not realize, but today we're going to discuss a topic that doesn't get mentioned quite enough or discussed. It's young adults and children who self-harm. They use different ways, such as cutting or using a sharp object, such as a razor blade, a knife, or scissors, to make marks or cuts or scratches on one's own body. It's a very sensitive subject, so if you have a few issues, you definitely can just move on to the next video, or if you do wish to stay and find out a little bit, I really do encourage you. It's a very important topic to discuss, particularly today with what's going on in our world. Now, cutting is just one form of self-injury. People who self-injure, they also might burn, or they might scratch or hit themselves. They may bang their head, pull their hair, pinch their skin, and they also might use needles or sharp objects or insert objects under their skin. It's often started as young teenagers, and it may continue into adulthood. So today we have the privilege of speaking with Gayle about this subject and about her organization. So thank you, Gayle. Welcome for coming. This is really a pleasure. This is really an honor. So
yes.
I want you here to discuss so we can better understand this very relevant issue nowadays. I know that you've dealt with this issue personally, and I'm very pleased that we can discuss the topic so that our viewers can get a better idea and understanding of what exactly happens and why it happens. I know it can be hard to understand of why people do it, what is the purpose for it, and I'm aware that it's a coping mechanism. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's one aspect of it. And like it's also to cope with pain or strong emotions or intense pressure and relationships. It's basically a coping element where you can lead to self-harm. Is that correct?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay, well, wonderful.
So normally when youth start doing this or kids start doing this, they'll hear about it from somebody else who uses the same technique. That seems to be a common thread, is that people don't just come up with this idea themselves. They either see it on social media or something they've seen, or a friend, something like that, has mentioned it. And normally it is because really intense emotion that they can't process at their younger ages. For example, anxiety or depression or fears, things like that. Feelings of loneliness, not being worthy, just all those things none of us ever want our children or ourselves to feel like. Unfortunately, sometimes we do.
Right.
And so it is a coping mechanism for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, I found out about you through a friend at church.
Yep, mutual friend Heather.
And she's basically said that you need to give her a call. She needs to talk with you. So she was at church today.
Oh,
so
good.
just for our viewers, yes, that's how we met, through Heather. And she told me about Gayle's organization. And how was it founded? How did it get started?
So my daughter Nina, who co-founded with us, she started self-harming in grade 5. And since then, a lot of her friends have also done that. It took her a really long time to find another coping strategy, but throughout our journey on that, if you're a parent or loved one of someone who self-harms, you'll know that there's a lot of trips to the shoppers and a lot of trips for first aid supplies and getting the right things to help kids manage what happens afterwards. So your Band-Aids, your things that you do to clean wounds and all that stuff. So we were always at the pharmacy getting stuff for everybody and all of her friends that needed stuff. And so one day, summer 2022, she comes to me and says, "Mom, can we put some first aid kits together for other kids who self-harm?" And I'm like, "Well, of course, but can I have a few minutes? I want to think about this." And I just really felt there was an opportunity here. to form a society, which I did with some friends, an Alberta society under the province, and really put a lens on this and put a light on this, because it impacts so many people. And unfortunately, I don't think any of us are immune to knowing someone who self-harms or someone who's caregiving for someone who does. Like, I don't think we're all very many steps away from someone who is self-harming.
Well, I think everybody in one way or another has issues dealing with, emotional, and, stress and all that. I mean, I myself, I've never done it, so I don't understand the process. I don't understand maybe how it works. So, I mean, why people hurt themselves, and can you describe kind of how the story began with your daughter? Like, what was your initial reaction?
Oh my goodness, initial reaction. It's very hard for a parent. Yeah. Like Laura said in the beginning, like, if this is really a subject that's very sensitive for you, or something that you're just not in that spot right now, we're going to get a little deep here, I think. And so please do jump to the next video. I definitely don't want this to be triggering or upsetting for anyone. We really just want to educate, create awareness, and advise you some supports that are out there to help you get through it if you're in this situation right now. But it is very triggering and it is very upsetting. So as a mom, I actually found out Mother's Day 2018. It was right before my oldest was graduating high school. My daughter was wearing long sleeves, and it was Mother's Day weekend. And where we live, there was a car show every Mother's Day weekend. And she goes there with these long sleeves and a hoodie on at 30 degrees in Alberta in May. And I'm going, what the heck? And I kept asking her, I'm like, honey, go change your shirt. Like, this is crazy. You must be sweating. And she's like, no, I'm fine. And she was acting really weird.
And just to let people know, if you're from the States and you hear 30 degrees, so that's 30 degrees Celsius.
Sorry, I don't know what
that's
that is.
Okay. So it's basically 90 degrees Fahrenheit that we're talking about.
Okay.
So that's the conversion if you're watching from a country that is using Fahrenheit.
So it was hot. It was hot. So it was hot, and she was wearing these long sleeves, and she just changed into another long sleeve shirt. And so I just kind of kept at her. Like, it was just really weird. It was just weird behavior. And so she comes out, she has a short sleeve shirt on, and she's hiding her arm, which is really the body language. This is such body language. I'm like, honey, show me your arm. And she didn't want to. So, like, I convinced her to show me, and there's all these scratches and cuts. And she knew immediately what I thought it was. And I start crying. I'm like, you want to help your child. Like, it's so scary to think this was happening in my house while my child was alone in her room. And then that she was physically altering her body in ways that was not just going to heal. Right? So that was the initial reaction. And so I called her school the next day because she was connected with her family wellness worker. I talked to them. I said, yeah, she told me the cat scratched her. She gave me a dozen things that happened, not what had really happened, which I think is normal. Like, there's so much stigma and shame and trauma from someone actually doing this to themselves. And it's hidden. Like, you really hide it. You don't show your friends. You don't show your parents. It's something you hide. It's something to be ashamed of, that you're doing this.
And that's what your daughter was going through?
Oh, absolutely.
She was ashamed.
She did not want us to know.
She didn't want anyone to know.
It was all she could finally do to feel better. Right? And so I connected with her family wellness worker, talked to her, and she said, I've got experience with this. I'll talk to her. And then she called me back and said, yeah, she's cutting.
Wow.
And it's like, where is she getting it? Then your mind goes, where is she getting it? What do we do?
Yeah.
And a lot of parents, I'll just add this as well, a lot of parents and caregivers believe that if your child cuts, they're suicidal. Every doctor that we've seen, every psychologist will tell you that that is not true. So self-harm does not indicate that you're suicidal. It can definitely be comorbid as you get older, but at that age, that's not what you're thinking about. It's you want to feel something. Right. To kind of answer your question on why they do it, is they want to feel something. And this is very graphic, but seeing blood makes them know they're alive. That is a common theme I've heard from so many moms, so many youth, so many psychologists.
Wow, that's something. See,
it's just the fact they see blood.
They see the blood, so I'm living.
They know they're alive.
I'm alive. I'm here, even though they may not feel alive. Is that basically?
and just so overwhelmed by their emotions.